The darkness out there has fallen who knows when. Do you hear that sigh just gently releasing from your chest after a long, exhausting day? Bracing yourself to play your part perfectly with the world out there. There are late afternoons when the city begins to light up, the stream of traffic rushing back and forth. You stand by the window or freeze amidst a crowd of strangers, suddenly feeling a bone-deep fatigue without knowing whom to express it to. Between the worries of food, clothing, rice, and money, between the ups and downs of work and relationships full of hurt, it seems we are shouldering too many things on these slender shoulders. There are times when you just want the world around you to stop for a few minutes, wanting all the storms out there to go silent so your heart can breathe, can be at peace.
But life has never stopped according to our wishes, and the waves of adversity keep crashing in, wave after wave, leaving your mind without a single day of peace. Today, in this quiet space, I am not here to lecture you on lofty philosophies, nor do I bring dry dogmas forcing you to be strong. I just want to sit down here, like a companion beside a warm cup of tea, together with you, learning how to calm the mind before all tribulations, learning how to silently pass through storms with the simple yet profound teachings of the Buddha. This will be a spiritual embrace, a promise of healing for the wounds you have long secretly hidden, helping you find again the treasure of peace that has always been available within your own soul.
Let us sit together very quietly, allowing the flow of mindfulness to gently weave through and soothe the deep cracks engraved at the bottom of our eyes. You know, in the original teachings of the Buddha, the fire of hatred and anger has never been a punishment inflicted from the outside. The Buddha saw through clearly that anger is like a flash flood sweeping through the chest, and before it can flood and hurt those around us, we ourselves are already the ones drowning in that muddy, raging torrent. There are people who look as calm as autumn water during the day, still laughing, talking, and being tolerant of the whole world. Yet when night falls, when all things withdraw into stillness, they lie awake, tossing and turning, their chests tightening, just because of a bitter remark that a loved one accidentally dropped, or that they themselves let slip in a moment of hot temper, failing to control their emotions. The most heartbreaking paradox of human life is that we easily become gentle and patient with strangers in society, but are ready to unleash the sharpest, heaviest words upon our own flesh and blood, the ones who inherently treasure us the most, simply because we mistakenly assume they will always be there to tolerate our dark corners.
Try to listen to the breath of your heart when anger surges. At that moment, your heart beats faster, your breath becomes hurried, like a stream blocked by massive boulders of melancholy and suffocation. Your mind at that time is exactly like a kettle boiling furiously on a red-hot stove. When that passionately swirling water evaporates, reason is clouded, and we can no longer see the shore of kindness. People often choose to shout, unleashing malicious words to satisfy the ego that wants to prove itself right, wanting others to kneel in defeat. But my friend, winning an argument, forcing your spouse or your child to be silent in pain, means the blessings and peace within the home have also quietly vanished with the smoke. Words once spoken while the mind is ablaze are exactly like a poisoned arrow that has left the bowstring, or like boiling water poured straight onto flesh. Even if it cools down, the quiet burn will still leave bleeding scars for the rest of one's life. There are families that do not fall apart because of material poverty, but are cold and desolate like an emotional graveyard, just because of shouts and sarcastic remarks repeated every day, turning the roof into a place everyone fears to step into.
To understand more deeply the lesson of calming the boiling torrent within the mind, I invite you to turn back the ancient scriptures glittering with the dust of time, returning to the Jetavana monastery on a peaceful late afternoon. The late-day sunlight fell slowly on the thatched roofs, gently illuminating a corner of the stone corridor, where the venerable Rahula was still young at that time, his mind still easily agitated like small ripples. Just when his mood was heavy due to the pressures of practice, a little novice monk accidentally spilled a bowl of water onto his robe, a matter that was actually as small as a grain of sand. But when the mind is not at peace, it instantly transforms into a raging tsunami of anger. Rahula lost his temper and rebuked the little monk with extremely heavy words. The little novice could only bow his head, his shoulders trembling, his tearful eyes dropping tears onto the floor in ultimate fear.
Right at that moment, the Buddha calmly walked by. He did not use deterrence or dogmas to rebuke his son. He quietly sat down beside the nearby wooden bowl containing murky water, gently stirring it with his compassionate hand. The surface of the water instantly became muddy, with dregs swirling up furiously. The Buddha looked at Rahula and gently asked, "My son, do you see your face in this bowl of water?" Rahula bowed his head, softly replying, "Respected world-honored one, the water is too muddy. I cannot see anything at all." The Buddha remained silent, placed the bowl of water on the ground, and waited. As time passed, the ripples no longer agitated. The dust and dregs gradually settled to the bottom of the bowl, returning a transparent water surface, clearly reflecting every feature of the face and the wide, high sky. Only then did the Buddha speak very slowly. When your mind is agitated with anger, you are exactly like this muddy bowl of water. If you open your mouth and act at that very moment, your words will be full of the poison of ignorance, deeply hurting others, and burning away all the merits that you have painstakingly cultivated.
The Buddha's simple lesson about the water bowl quieted like frost awakened Rahula. He collapsed to his knees and maintained silence for a very long time to look back at his own heart. That night, he went all the way to the little novice monk's room to bow his head and apologize. That little monk cried, not because of pain, but because for the first time he felt the cool stream of tolerance of an adult who knew how to lower the ego to heal a young, innocent heart. Out there in life, how many of us endure to learn how to be silent when the water of the heart is swirling with waves? We keep thinking that a hot temper is a nature born of heaven, a flaw that cannot be corrected. But the Buddha taught that everything is due to habitual tendencies, formed by the habit of sowing and planting. If every day when encountering something contrary to your wishes, you choose to react immediately, choose to unleash harsh words, then your mind will form a narrow groove. Whenever the wind moves, fierce waves will automatically surge before reason can even act.
Many people seek out temples, chant scriptures by heart, eat vegetarian meals for enough months, but the moment they step back home, if the rice is a bit cold, they snap. If the children do something wrong, they slam the table and shout. True practice does not lie in flashy external forms, but lies right at the moment you are annoyed, being hurt, yet still know how to step back by one breath, keeping your mouth soft, speaking a word a little more gently. When someone throws an unpleasant remark at you,
Instead of throwing back a hot coal at them, learn to be silent for a few seconds, just like a lake receiving a pebble. Even if the pebble creates a few ripples, the vast lake will tolerate it, letting it sink deep to the bottom and returning the inherent peace to the surface of the lake. Human life is very short. A breath out that fails to breathe back in time becomes impermanence. Why must we use precious years to nurture resentment and bitterness that torment our own minds and cold the hearts of our loved ones?
The darkness out there has fallen who knows when. Do you hear that sigh just gently releasing from your chest after a long, exhausting day? Bracing yourself to play your part perfectly with the world out there. Do you feel that sometimes what exhausts us is not the long distance we are traveling, but because we are carrying too massive a boulder of resentment in our hearts, so that every night, when all things have fallen asleep, our hearts still churn with quiet, melancholy undercurrents. Empathizing with that sentiment, today, I beg permission to accompany you into the next part of the healing journey, where we will transform the teachings of the Buddha into a practical medicine, watering the land of thoughts that is parched because of storms. After all the ups and downs that you and I have looked back on together, have you ever wondered how to sow that seed of stillness right into this hectic life today? The Buddha's words have never been distant philosophies on the lips, but are the very map guiding our footsteps through hardships. Calming the mind before all tribulations does not require you to abandon your family, flee from your job, or seek out some paradise-like wonderland to practice. True peace can only be found and tested right in the heart of daily storms. That is when there is a bit of discord in the family. You know to pause for a beat, take a deep breath, so that the words spoken do not carry the fire of hatred to hurt the ones you love the most. That is when work and fortune encounter tight, difficult times. Instead of complaining to heaven and blaming earth or resenting conditions, you realize this is the moment the law of cause and effect is operating, to remind you to look back at your lifestyle, learning to sow new, more sustainable seeds of goodness. And that is also when your own health or that of a loved one shows signs of decline. You know to accept it with a calm mindset, treasuring every present moment to care for each other with a whole heart of filial piety and love, instead of letting the fear of the future gnaw at the soul.
To nourish that root of awakening, every day you only need to grant yourself 5 or 10 minutes of complete silence. Sit down very comfortably, relax the shoulders that are shouldering so many worries, and bring the mind back to the breath. When inhaling, you know you are inhaling the purity of heaven and earth. When exhaling, you gently release all the grief and anxiety accumulated throughout a long day. Practice observing the thoughts, the internal storms rising and setting like clouds drifting across the sky of the mind. Without judgment, without holding on, and without chasing away. When you can be friends with your own silence, you will see that even if the world out there turns upside down, deep within your heart remains a flat, calm lake, reflecting the light of wisdom and compassion.
The night has grown late. The surrounding space seems to also be settling down to embrace the exhausted souls after a long day of striving. I hope that these whispered confidences and sentiments today from the channel Still Mind Dharma have partially acted like a cool breeze, soothing the wounds and anxieties that are looming in your heart. If you feel this video brings you a little peace, a little warm space of stillness, please leave a comment, a heart sign,
or share it with your loved ones who need a spiritual anchor amidst this volatile life. Your resonance and presence are a great encouragement, a fragrant flower on our path back. Wishing you to always keep the lamp of awakening in your heart. Wishing your family to always be prosperous, the human heart to always be simple, and wishing you to always be strong enough, loving enough, to silently pass through all the storms of life. Rejoicing in your merits, and see you again in the next favorable conditions.